evening, everybody. This is John Marola from Keeping It Real, Section 5 Football. And yes, we're into our second season. So this is episode 1, season number 2. And to kick off our new season, first I'm going to have to introduce my partners. On my far right, Section 5 Hall of Fame football coach from East High, Coach Paul Burgandy. Coach.
Thank you, John, and hello, Dave, and hello, Dave.
There you go.
Paul, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, yes.
And my other co-host here on my right, former... What'd you look at me for?
I don't know, John.
I'm not going to... Former football and baseball Section 5 coach from Fairport High School, Coach Dave Lanning. Coach?
John, thank you.
Thank you for being here. And our man... for our week number 1 is Section 5's all-time winningest football coach from Midlakes High School, Coach Dave Whitcomb. Coach, thanks for being here.
Well, thank you very much, and it's an honor to be here and sitting between these two gentlemen who I've known for a long time.
That's awesome. Before we kick off right now, I got a couple things that I talked to our coaches about earlier. Is at the beginning of our episodes now, you'll see that we have all of our platforms. The YouTube icons are all in place, and it's all under one name, Keeping It Real, Section 5 Football, in the small caps. So if you go on to X or YouTube, that's what you type in, and you'll get our episodes. So I got that at the beginning of our show and at the end of our show.
How are we doing with TikTok, John?
TikTok is going to kick off big this week. This you notice I have a different camera over here?
I do.
Yep, that's going to be for the TikTok. So I have my own camera for TikTok rolling. So it's going to be this week's going to be the week. So one other thing I have that I'd like to mention is I was talking to coaches earlier again. I got a nice text this week, and it was from our Small Class Player of the Year, Ben Newman, and I just wanted to say thank you, Ben. He gave me, actually it was for all of us, gave a text just saying thank you for nominating him Player of the Year. He really appreciates it. He'd like to say to Coach Barola, Coach Burgandy, and Coach Lanning, that's what we're looking for. That's so rewarding, at least I know to us, about getting that positive feedback from people, players, and just that really meant a lot.
Well, I think that's our mission, is to recognize these young players and give them their props.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, we thank Ben for that.
Yep. So, excuse me. Again, thank you, Ben. I really appreciate it. And to all coaches, too, just if you have players that are going to, start getting into colleges, committing, please throw me a text or an email. And we'd like to, we'll mention who the young man is and where he's going. Just, give it more publicity, more for for the kids. So that being said, we're going to have Coach Lanning start us off. You ready, Coach?
I'm ready.
Here we go.
Well, again, our special guest is Coach Dave Whitcomb, veteran coach in Section 5 and the all-time winner in terms of games. And Coach Burgandy and I are going to grill you today, Coach.
Okay,
With,
don't make it too hard.
Questions. These, as I said, these are the tough questions. This is hard-hitting journalism, so I hope you're ready for that.
I'll do my best.
I'm sure you will. Coach, I know that you're a fixture in Section 5, but how about some background on you? Where did you grow up, and where did you attend school early in your career?
I grew up in Henrietta. I went to Henrietta up until my 9th grade year, and then I went to McQuaid in high school. Back when I was in Henrietta, Henrietta was just starting a football program, and Paul McKee was the coach, and they didn't have youth league football. So the first time I actually put a helmet and shoulder pads on was my freshman year at McQuaid. And playing at McQuaid, I played for Tom Seymour and Frank Nose. I played for 4 years there, and then I went on and played 4 years at Ithaca College. So that's kind of my background in terms of football. And
how about some of your teammates at McQuaid? Do you recall some?
Oh, yeah. Gary Gianforte was our quarterback. Mark Welt was our running back. Bob Baker and I were the right side of the offensive line. Lou Brock was a big defensive tackle. We used to call him Roger McGee. He was one of our inside linebackers. We had a lot of good players. A lot of good players.
So you were an O lineman to
Yes,
begin?
believe it or not.
Did you choose that, or did it choose you?
After watching me run a little bit, they decided that being a running back or a receiver was not in my future.
All right. And who'd you play back in those days?
Back then, of course, Catholic schools, city Catholic schools were not allowed. So we played, Cardinal Mooney was in existence, Bishop Kearney. We actually played DeSales out of Geneva. Of course, Aquinas was our rival. We traveled. We played Whitesboro. We played Erie Prep out of Pennsylvania. Both Elmira schools, MLS Southside, Elmira Free Academy. So we traveled around. We did not really play, other than Whitesboro was a public school, but we weren't a lot. We weren't allowed at that point in sectionals or any kind of league play. So it was a varying schedule.
Well, your college decision. How did you decide on was it Ithaca?
Mm-hmm.
And again,
the first game I coached, we won 14-7, and we played York. And that year, we were an offensive juggernaut. If we had scored 14 points in every game, we'd have gone undefeated. So it tells you what kind of offense we were. And I got the job a week before the season. So it was learning by test by fire, believe me. And I really enjoy it. It's a great community, great place, and obviously Andy Englert's done a great job there in the interim. So that really started my career there. I was taught phys ed, taught health, then I became the athletic director. Once I got into the athletic administration piece, I really liked it. And I'll tell people, I got to a point in my life where I didn't want my day to be run by a bell. In other words, you teach, especially in physical education, well, any subject matter for that matter. You have so many minutes, and the bell rings, and I like the administrative. I like the administrative piece of it. I liked working with other teams, other coaches. So that's when I decided to, because it was part time there. You were a teacher and a coach in a smaller school, and
would that have been a tough decision if you could not still coach and had to decide one or the other?
Well, I faced that decision later on when I left Avon. I actually went to Aquinas for a year, and we had a very successful year. But financially, and now we started having kids, and of course that changes your life, obviously in a positive way. So I was actually the athletic director. Ben Giuseppe and Dick Cerrone talked to me at Arcadia because they were doing all three schools at that point, and they wanted to have an athletic director solely at Arcadia. So I took that job. So that fall, I did not coach. And I went around, saw a lot of football games, but it just wasn't the same. And I said to myself, this isn't going to happen. And at that point, then Greece was talking about consolidating. So I was possibly going to lose my job. And that's when I went to Midlakes, because then you were administrator. I was an assistant principal / AD and coach.
Well, let's talk about your continued football journey for Midlakes.
Well,
onward.
From Midlakes, I was there, and I can't remember. I think it was 12 or 13 years. After that, I went to Geneva, and Geneva was really struggling. They were on a 16 or 17 or 20 game losing streak. I can't really remember. And a good friend of mine was the principal out there, Mike Simon, who's the lacrosse chairman. Mike and I took some graduate courses together, and he kind of talked me into going down there because it was a total rebuild. And then from there, I actually retired from education in terms of administration. I worked for BOCES for 2 years, and I still coached I was at Geneva 1 year, and then Fairport position came open when Mike Erlin, who was a former player of mine, decided that he was going to get out, and I was fortunate enough to work there. I worked there until I decided to retire for a year. As you well know, Dave, that's a large program. It takes its toll on you, and so then I was a volunteer assistant at Jeff Welch at Canandaigua. His dad and I played football together and graduated together, and we're friends at Ithaca College. So I've known Jeff since literally he was a kid, and he called me up and said, hey, would you come out and give us a hand? I said, Jeff, I don't know. Well, I started watching the combine and the draft in the spring, and oh boy. So I went back there for 2 years as a volunteer, and I'll tell you, it was a great experience. They have a terrific program out there. I learned a lot. Well, then Midlakes called back again. They were on a 21-game losing streak, and the AD called me and said, would you be interested in coming back, because the coach there got out. I said, well, it was towards the end of our season. I said, well, let me talk to you after our season. I probably wouldn't have gone anywhere else had it not been Midlakes, because we had some success there, and I hated to see the program where it was. So I said, all right, I'll go back, and there I go again. And we turned it around a little bit. It's not quite where I would like it to be, or should be, or wanted it to be right at this point, but we've won some games and got the program back to where I think kids understand
Right.
what you should do, what you got to do to try to be competitive.
Have you had a favorite stop along the way?
Each one of them has had its own uniqueness. I've always told people, I've gone from rural schools in a sense to county schools to private parochial schools to kind of a city-type school atmosphere in Geneva, and they're all unique in their own different way. And the one thing I've always said to people is, and of course with that comes a whole different clientele of kids and community. And kids, there's a common theme with all of them, at least I believe, is if you treat them with respect, they wanted to be treated with respect, they will respect you back. They want somebody to care for them. They want somebody to mentor them. Sometimes they come across maybe not so much, but you get them in the office and you talk to them. So I wouldn't say there's been any one favorite, because they've all been great. I've been very fortunate to work with some great administrators, community. It's been a journey. It's been a journey.
Well, you've been a football lifer, and going back to the beginning to 2025, how's the game changed?
Well, I think the game obviously itself has changed. Back when I first got in, going back to that story about Avon, where 14 points we'd have been undefeated. It was kind of football in a phone booth back then. People were running the I, they were running wing T, wishbone. In fact, that's the offense we ran at that point. And now it's expanded. People kind of call it basketball on grass. Everyone's four wide spread. So the game itself, the strategy, and of course that changes your defensive philosophy also. The game still comes down to fundamentals. They say blocking and tackling. Don't turn the ball over. The athletes themselves. I mean, back, like when I played in high school, the kid that played next to me, he was 220, and he was considered a big kid. Now in high school, you got quarterbacks that are 220. Tackles that are 280, 290, 300, and can move. So kids have gotten bigger, faster, stronger. You didn't have the off-season conditioning programs that you have now. There weren't camps back then. It was actually legal. So it's become more of a 12-month thing. I tell our kids, we have to do this, 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 and this. And that's even not a guarantee you're going to win. But I tell them, if you don't, get in the weight room, go to camps, do the 7-on-7s, I tell you, you're not going to win. And so it's. I think the demand on the athlete has changed an awful lot.
For better or worse?
Boy, I'm not so sure. It's in some regards it's for the better, because a lot of these kids play other sports, so they're being pulled. And I'll be frank, some of these organizations they play for, and some of the things they go to, yes, they're in this case football driven, but there's also a financial reward for the people running.
Oh, definitely.
And that bothers me. Now that my grandkids have played, and seeing some of the things, it's like you got a kid can't devote yourself to 3 sports, doing every weekend, everything. Kids need a little bit of a break. And I've always encouraged our kids to play 3 sports. Our players when they're in high school, I think it's great to be coached by other coaches. I think it's great to the movement skills, but I don't know. I have some real reservations about some of these outside organizations. I really do.
Coach Whitcomb, one of the things, and I'm sure you experienced this a lot, and some you had some control over, some maybe you did not, but the selection of your coaching staff, and depending on where you were in, how much control did you have over the selection, and what were you looking for in some of your assistants?
Well, fortunately, most of the places I was the head football coach, I was the athletic director. So I had a lot of influence. I'm not going to lie about that.
No.
But I've always I tell this at our banquet when I talk about I have been blessed with I kind of call them co-coaches. You know, I believe we coach is kind of a committee. Now, obviously, as the head coach, you have a lot of more responsibilities, and you know, as they say, the buck stops there. Mm-hmm. My first requirement has nothing to do with how much you know about X's and O's. You better care about kids. You better believe that the reason you're coaching, you're a teacher, and you're trying to educate kids about things that go way beyond the football field. And, you know, most people, not anybody, most people can learn the X's and O's of the game, you know, how to teach a drill. And then you better be a good teacher, and you better care about kids. So that's my number one priority. And like I say, every school I've been at, I've been really blessed with great people to work with. And, you know, I think that really is probably the main reason for the success that we've had.
Well, you became a head coach, and I don't know, maybe 40, 50 years now of you know, coaching football. And what advice would you give to someone who just gets the head coaching job at a place? And now, through your experience, what are some of the things that you think is important for them to know what they're getting into, and you know, what you've learned?
I think, you know, the first thing is kind of going back to what I just said. The reason you better be a good reason why you're getting into coaching. You know, I've seen some young coaches, you know, in not just football but other sports. Again, going back to my athletic director days, and they like walking up and down the sideline and, you know, wearing the sunglasses and doing all this. It looks nice. So that's not what it's all about. Mm-hmm. All right, it's about what is it you're doing on a day-to-day basis. The next thing for a young coach is, especially a head coach, remember you're coaching a program, not a team. You know, you've got to take care of your lower levels and you know, try to work with your youth league if you have a youth league program. Organize, you know, give your assistant coaches their responsibilities and put them in a situation where you trust them. You know, if you have a defensive coordinator, an offensive coordinator, of course you're involved in it. But, you know, let them do their job, because if you don't feel they can do their job, they shouldn't have the responsibility. Be communicative with kids. Understand that the kids you're coaching, you have a variety of kids coming from all different backgrounds, you know, at home, in school, educational. And you've got to be firm but fair, but you got to understand about kids. And you got to be willing to put in a lot of time. You know, it's not just a August to November type job, not anymore especially. But my first thing is care about kids and never stop learning. Like I said, when I was at Canandaigua, you know, and I was been coaching for I don't know how long at that point, I learned a ton. If you think you know it all, you don't know it all. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, one of the things, you know, you just mentioned in Canandaigua, and I do want to bring this up because you had mentioned some of your mentors and people that, you know, were very influential in your coaching career. And a good friend, a great friend of ours on the staff, and I know he thought the world of it, was Dave Neiman, who had passed away this year. And any memories that you have about some of your interactions with Dave Neiman over the years?
Well, he was the head coach at Canandaigua, all right, and I was coaching at Geneva. We had a huge game, a league championship game. It was our homecoming game. I don't know, there were 10 deep around the fence, and et cetera, and they had a kid that was playing quarterback for him that had played for me the last couple of years before that, and unfortunately was not able to come back to our place. Another story. So we meet at half. I always like to meet with the coach, as most people do at halftime. So I go out there. Dave comes out, and he's all smiling, and he starts talking to me about, hey, you know, how do you get into administration? I said, Dave, we're going to kick off in 15 minutes. He goes, well, yeah. He goes, I don't know if I'm going to continue coaching. I want to get into administration. I said, Dave, we'll talk to him about it after the game. All right. Well, then when I, you know, was assistant helping out at Canandaigua, of course, Dave was on staff there, and we would talk all the time and just reminisce about stories. You know, he would come down and scout us when he was at Olympia, I think it was. Mm-hmm. He thought we were going to play him, or actually play, I think it was Newark in a game, so he had come down. But an upbeat guy that could relate to kids, that had an enthusiasm. He was like the Pied Piper. He was a middle school phys ed teacher there, and my oldest grandson, who I never thought in my wildest dreams would have ever been a wrestler. Dave is the one in Rich Romeo that talked him into it. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, it really changed his life. I mean, Dave was inspirational. I just remember that every day I ever saw him, on the practice field or in the office, smile, upbeat. I had never heard him say a bad word about a person. And that's the kind of guy you want your kid to be coached by.
Well, again, you don't know how influential you are. People, I know Dave thought the world of Mike Payne and a lot of former probably players and other of your assistants, speaks highly. So
Let's continue a little walk down memory lane here, Coach.
Okay.
How about some of your fondest memories or reminiscences of your career?
Well, as I mentioned, the first day I was a head coach, you walk out on the practice field, and I didn't really know any of the players because, like I say, I got the position. And Charlie Maggio was one of my assistants. He had actually taught with me at Aquinas and got a teaching job. I walked out and I looked around and I said, Charlie, are we sure we should be here? It's like, what are we doing here? I'll never forget that. And then, you remember a lot of the games, the wins, the losses. My fondest memories are being in the weight room, being on the practice field, watching kids. This year, a great memory. After our last game, we played Clyde in our last game, and it was early November. Our kids were in the locker room. They were happy. They were singing Christmas carols. I'll never forget it. But, you certainly remember, riding on people's shoulders after winning a state championship. That's a memory that will live. Just the interaction with kids and coaches. It's hard to pick a favorite one. And there's games that stick out in your mind. You certainly remember some of the like I say, the wins, the good wins, some of the tough losses. But I love being on a practice field with kids and interacting, locker room, like I say, bus rides, most of them.
I love bus rides.
Yeah. Some of them, you want to forget.
Yeah. On the way home.
But especially if it's a far trip. And we played a Buffalo school in Buffalo on our first game or second game of the year one year. And bus got lost. It was about 95 degrees on the way home. I was like, just get me home. And fortunately, we had won the game. It's like, oh, my God. But again, it's hard for me to pick a game or a season.
Coach, how about this? If you hadn't followed this path, what would you be doing?
Well, it's ironic in a sense. When I was trying to make a college decision, I had two paths to go. One was to get into physical education. I love the outdoors. The other was to be a forest ranger.
Oh, wow.
I had actually applied to Morrisville because Morrisville back then was a 2-year school, and they had forestry. They were associated with Syracuse. Paul Smith up in the Adirondacks, and and to be honest with you, the main reason that I decided to go the other way was neither I had football. So I decided, all right, I'll go to Ithaca, and so I don't know if I would have followed that career path, but. I'll tell you what, I don't regret 1 minute as far as coaching football and choosing this career path.
So you do it all over again?
Absolutely.
One thing I have, I'm down here.
Oh.
In our beginning credits, when you were talking about favorite moments and being carried after state. One of our pictures I have of you at Geneva is after a game where you guys won, and you guys won states, and you're being carried off the field. I mean, I think those are special moments.
Yeah, that's there's a lot of great coaches in Section 5 that never had that opportunity, partially because there weren't state tournaments back when they were coaching, and it's like Dan Marino, Hall of Fame career, but never won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of hard work, effort, but it takes a lot of luck and a lot of great people surrounding you to get to that level.
I want to ask my other two co-hosts here. Coach, I'll start with Coach Bergani. Coach, what is something that you miss when you stopped coaching?
Well, I think.
And hold on, let me before we get into this a little bit. I was presented this question last year when I was at Bill's camp at Fisher, and Coach McDermott, who and I, we would talk just about every day. We were talking one day. He said to me, "What do you miss most of all about not coaching anymore?" And I'll get to that in a minute. But Coach Brigandi, what was your?
I think just the day-to-day interactions when you'd see the kids. They'd stop by the physical education office. Some of the stories you have, most recently even over the Christmas holidays. The Saturday before Christmas, the guys who we coached together at East High and former players, we meet every year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always the Saturday before Christmas. We don't have a date. It's just that's when we meet. And just going over all the stories, how maybe they've changed or, the fish got bigger.
Yep. Oh, yeah,
Stories,
definitely.
And we laugh. And, the where are they nows, what's so-and-so doing now?
Mm-hmm.
Or, you hear the news when you run into some of the kids, whether it's at the mall or at a restaurant or whatever, and they're introducing you to their families, and you see that they're pretty productive, what they've done. And some of them, say thank you, and they talk about some of the decisions they made when they were younger and needed some guidance. And, I think those things, when you hear that they're doing well and the day-to-day interactions that you don't have because you're not in that building. They've moved on with their lives, but the good news is we still love them and care about them, and they're asking about us.
Coach Lanning?
Well, certainly all those things that Coach just mentioned, but I miss a lot of the day-to-day team building stuff, seeing guys get better over the course of a season, guys that were 2s or 3s on your depth chart who find a way to contribute to the team's success and just their personal growth. I miss that. And I miss the teaching part of it. Coaching's teaching,
Yes.
As Coach Whitcomb mentioned. And I was a classroom teacher, so I like to take that out into the field. And I miss that, the day-to-day.
Okay. My one that when Coach McDermott asked me that question, and I just went and thought for a second, and I said, you know what it is? I don't know about you guys, but I got superstitious as our season. You're winning a couple games, and now we got to get on the bus this way. Now we got to get off the bus this way. We get so wrapped up. Anyways, I had these two brothers, Mark and Matt Stolte, and they're two big linemen that we had at Aquinas. So, we started winning the games. Now we're going on an away game, and I told those two, they always sat behind me on the bus. I said, you two, make sure you sit behind me. So we ended up winning states that year. Mark was a senior, Matt was a junior. So then Mark goes on to college, Matt's there, and Matt now would sit behind me in the bus. So fortunately, again, we won states again that year. That's when we went back-to-back with Dave Neiman. And then, now they're both in college. Now I get on a bus the third year after, and I don't have either of them. They both have graduated. Mark is at Rhode Island, Matt's at UMass. I get on the bus, I look behind me, and two other kids are sitting there. I get on my phone on the bus, and I call them, and I'm like, Mark, Coach Morella, Coach, what's going on? I said, I miss you. I'm on a bus for the first time in over 2 years, and I'm not looking at you or your brother, and we just laughed and laughed. Then I called up Matt and let him know, too. But, I just really missed that. Getting on a bus before a game and getting ready, it's just so special. Going to your opponent's school, getting off the bus, and getting ready to play a game. It's just, to me, that was very, very special.
What I wanted to ask Coach Whitcomb is, you've done this a long time. What kept your fire, and what keeps you going? And is there something that when this career ends, something you've always wanted to do that maybe in the next chapter of your life that you would want to get into if it wasn't coaching?
And I will just say the podcast job is yours if you want it.
Right. There's always,
you're leaving?
There's always a chair here.
Are you leaving?
I may.
You got a
I
better,
have other
you got
opportunities.
You got a better offer?
ESPN, is that
Well,
what?
I can't mention
Well,
the
we might have
contractually.
Danny,
letters.
but there's a spot there that if he does leave.
Well, excuse me. What keeps me going is all the things like you guys mentioned. It's the reason that you're in it, and that reason doesn't change. And I quite honestly think that in society nowadays, there's even more of a demand because there's kids who have so many other distractions. They have so many other things going on. Society has changed. In my opinion, maybe you guys would agree, disagree. It's got a little bit softer.
Definitely.
The kids, they need that structure. They need to understand what hard work is in order to be successful. You don't get it by playing on your phone all day long. So I think that's it. And just looking in kids' faces in their eyes every day and seeing it, and like David mentioned, watching them grow. You're an 8th grader and you're playing modified football, or 7th grader for the first time, and then all of a sudden, next thing you blink, they're seniors. Mm-hmm. How have they grown, not only just as football players, but more importantly as people? And seeing that success, hopefully, and seeing them grow, even year to year, that's something that keeps you in it.
Is there a hobby or anything that you'd spend more time doing?
I love to backpack. I'm almost done with the 46ers in the Adirondacks. I started that with my brother-in-law, my brother-in-law. Unfortunately, has passed away. But now, then my son and my brother's kids have done it. Now it's down to my grandchildren. In fact, the whole family, with a couple exceptions. My wife can't because of her knee. We climbed Mount Marcy again 2 summers ago. It was just a great time. So that I used to hunt and fish. I gave that up because I said, especially hunting, I said, how can I justify leaving the family in November when hunting season comes around, when you've just spent 7 days a week? So I
Personal, it's like buying a pair of cleats for them. It's their personal equipment now, which I think is great. The other thing is Coach Giordano. We all know and love. We said that he runs all these camps. Well, February 17th and 18th, he's going to be up at, and we will too, be up at
Total Sports?
Total Sports, yes. They're running a girls' flag football camp. And we're going to do a little broadcasting out of there. I have off, Coach Lanning, I know you have off that week. Mm-hmm. It's during our winter recess. So if both of you guys are in town,
I'll be in Florida.
I know you'll be in Florida.
Good for you.
Coach Briganti's sort of the Frank Sinatra of this crew. He's all over the place, living the high life.
Yep. Well, God bless him. So, but yep, we'll be over at Total Sports and get a hold of a couple of the coaches over there and some the girl athletes and have a good time with that.
Yeah, and again, I think congratulations to you, Coach Whitcomb, the all-time winningest coach in Section 5, and adding on to that total, go get them.
I think just having coached so long, I coached in an era when there weren't state playoffs. In fact, there weren't regional playoffs. And then there weren't even sectionals at one point. It was just then there was 4 teams. Now it's 8 teams, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of great coaches out there, who probably would have had a lot more wins had they coached in an era where there was, up to 13, 14, 15 games. I'm thinking of Don, Dave, Mike Foster,
Right.
These guys that are also, and there's some guys that are right on my heels, like Riches, Lapani.
Richie's up there,
So, it means a lot to me to be there, but I also realize you got to take it in a little bit of context. That someone said to me, "Oh, you won all these games." I said, "Yeah, all it means is I'm old. I've been around long enough." But it does mean a lot. But I think I can put it in some context too. That I didn't win those games. Mm-hmm. We won those games.
Yes, yes, and like you were just saying about the people that are around Gene Maston. I mean, just
we had him on.
Yes, yep, and just great people. Just having those people around is just it's unbelievable to have.
I remember a quick story. I don't want to
go
hold
ahead.
you up.
No.
When I was a young coach, in fact, I was at Avon, and Warner Kleeman lived in Henrietta, and we lived in Henrietta at that time, my wife and I. And Tuesday nights, I would go over to Warner's house, and we'd sit in his basement, and he pulled down his projector, and we'd watch film. Now, we were running Wishbone, he was running Wing T. And, but he called me once. We were getting ready to play a sectional final. He called me up, and he says, Dave, how you doing? I said, geez, Warren, I don't know. I said, we haven't had a very good week of practice. The kids don't seem to be engaged. He goes, and they were getting ready to play. He said, look, this time of the year, kids are thinking about wrestling, basketball. They don't want to be out in the cold, so don't worry about it. And, you know, fortunately, both of us went on to win. But just guys like that were willing to give their time and talk to you not only just about football, but about how to be a coach. And it is a fraternity. It is a fraternity, and it's a great fraternity of guys. And you know, I've been fortunate to be a part of it.
You know, like we've said, and I know you do too. It's you don't get that far wanting to be in it that long without good people around you.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
people that you've looked up to, people that are now looking up at you, and it makes you feel good. Just like I just said, my little thing earlier with Ben Newman, texting me this past week about how, you know, proud he was being, you know, the athlete of the year. That just makes me and makes us so, you know, happy. You know, this is what we do. What we do. You know, this is what we do. How we do it, and just being, you know, proud and happy and try to make kids better.
Well, and the whole podcast was to spread information. You know, whether it's camps, whether it's young men deciding on college choices, combines, hearing the Dave Whitcomb story passed on that many people do not know, and now they will.
Yes.
And that's the things that we enjoy doing.
And on to other things. Coach Lanning, you good?
I'm good.
Coach Brigandy?
I'm good.
Coach Whitcomb?
I just want to thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure and honor, and hope you guys have a good rest of the day. Great time in Florida.
Good. Thank you. And this will be on, what, Thursday?
This will be on, yes, Thursday.
It drops on Thursday.
Yes, sir. That drop word, I love it. Yes,
so
drop.
Thursday on YouTube.
On
Okay.
YouTube.
All
Yes,
right.
well, it's going to be on everything, and I got everything already listed. YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram. What else? TikTok, sorry, Coach. You know, it's going to be on everything. Just to let everybody know, too, next week we will be on again, next Thursday. And our guest next week is going to be the current Section 5 chairman of Section 5 football, Scott Barker. So we're going to have Scott on next week, and we're going to talk about, you know, where Section 5 is right now a little bit, and where's he planning on, you know, letting it get to, and talk to him and have a good time with that. The week after that, we already have is, I had to call him because I had told him I would. He was our first guest last year. Paul and I did like a little kickoff little episode, and then our first guest we had was John DiTullio. So, anyways, I reached out to John last week, and he just told me, just tell me the time, and I'll be there. So in 2 weeks we'll have John DiTullio back on, and you know, talking about some more, you know, football around the area.
I think he just recently went to the Penn State Notre Dame game.
I was just going to say, I know
Yeah.
he's a big Penn State guy,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
he'll be recovered by then, I think.
I hope so. I hope so, because that one took a lot out of a lot of people I know. You know, but you know, we'll see what happens. Notre Dame got hot at the right. Actually, that's how everybody. You know, it's high school football too, getting hot at the right time. You know, so everybody good?
Good.
Good.
Okay. On three, everybody know what we're going to say. Coach, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go 1, 2, 3.
Point at the camera.
Point at the camera and say,
Keeping it real.
keeping
Okay.
it real, Section 5 football. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Keeping it
it
real,
real,
Section
Section
5
5
football. Good night, everybody.
Lately, I've been thinking, I want you to be happier, I want you to be happier. When the morning comes and we see what we've become, in the cold light of day we're a flame in the wind, not the fire that we begun. Every argument, every word we can't take back, 'cause with all that has happened I think that we both know the way that the story ends. Then only for a minute my mind, 'cause this just don't feel right to me. I wanna raise your spirits, I want to see you smile, but no, that means I'll have to leave. No, that means I'll have to leave. Lately, I've been thinking, I want you to be happier, I want you to be happier. When the evening falls and I'm left there with my thoughts, and the image of you being with someone else, well, it's eating me up inside. But we ran our course, we pretended we're okay. Now if we jump together, at least we can swim far away from the wreck we made. Then only for a minute, I want to change my mind, 'cause this just don't feel right to me. I wanna raise your spirits, I want to see you smile, but no, that means I'll have to leave. No, that means I'll have to leave. Lately, I've been thinking, I want you to be happier, I want you to be happier. So I'll go, I will go. So I'll go, I will go. Lately, I've been thinking, I want you to be happier, I want you to be happier. Even though I might not like this, I think that you'll be happier, I want you to be happier. Then only for a minute, I want to change my mind, 'cause this just don't feel right to me. I wanna raise your spirits, I want to see you smile, no, that means I'll have to leave.